All right, so now that we have our 3 different handles, we're gonna pick one that we want to attach. Now, if you're not happy with the 3 handles that you created, recreate the handle that you enjoyed most and we'll attach that one when we're ready. So I'm gonna take my spiral handle because I like that it looks like a unicorn. And I'm just gonna double check to make sure it is smoothed out before I attach it. Okay, so if you can see the seam of where your cylinder was connected, we are gonna place our handle on that because it can hide our imperfections. So I'm gonna line this up and then I'm just gonna make a little mark of where I'm gonna need to score, okay? So I made 2 little marks, made a mark on top and a mark on bottom. And I'm gonna take my score tool. You can use anything that's going to scratch into the clay to roughen it up a little bit. Now I want to make sure they're right above each other. So they're slightly off, so I'm gonna bring my bottom one a little bit over, okay. And now I'm gonna score the 2 ends of my handle. And remember, I want to go in the same direction so those lines fit like Velcro. So here you can see. And that is going to match up pretty well. So now I'm going to need to score and slip. I already scored, so now I'm gonna slip. So I'm gonna just take a bit of slip. This is way too much because remember, a little goes a long way, and I'm just gonna tap it on there. So about half will go on top, half will go on bottom. All right, so I got my slip and I'm ready to attach. So I'm gonna hold this in my hand and I'm going to just shimmy that and shimmy that on. Now I want to check to make sure my handle is going to be straight. You don't want the bottom to be farther to the right or the top to be farther to the left and it looks crooked. You want your handle to be straight because this is going to be the strongest support for your handle, okay? So now that I have that pretty well on there, so my mug's a little bit drier and my handle is probably about the same stage. So I'm going to need to really weld this and make sure this is on nice and tight. So welding is really important when we're attaching on handles that are going to be functional because we're not going to want them to break off. So I'm blending the clay from the handle into the mug and I'm going to try my best to make it look as seamless as possible. So it's kind of messy on that end, so I can take my sponge and I can clean it up, making it look really nice. Oh, I love it. I think it's gonna be a unicorn mug. It's lovely. Okay, and then I need to do the inside too, so I'm gonna take a little bit of the clay and I'm going to blend it in there. You can always take, if you feel like it's weak, you can always take a small piece of clay, roll it, and create a little bit more of a support in there if you're scared it's gonna break. Okay, it's not mandatory, but it does add a little bit of strength. It adds a little bit more clay to it. Okay. And I'm gonna come back and clean that up in a minute. Now I need to do the top, and I wanna do the top before it gets too dry. So I'm gonna do underneath first. And I'm just gonna take some of that handle and I'm gonna blend it into my mug. Now be careful when you're blending, you don't wanna gouge out the clay from the inside. It should just be a little bit. And of course you can shape it a little bit more with your tool as you go around. Now I kind of want to make like a thumbprint because when I hold my mug, I usually have my thumb on top. So I'm gonna just push into the clay a little bit. So I have a little bit of a thumbprint. It's gonna make it a little bit wider, give it a little bit more of a surface to attach. And I'm just gonna use my finger to smooth it out. All right, I need to get to the other side. And this method is going to go for all your handles. Okay, so if you did a slab handle, same thing, score, slip, weld the edges to the best of your ability. Make sure it looks nice and neat. You want your handles to be on there securely so they can support your mug. Once you have your handle attached, of course, clean up always. It's part of craftsmanship. It makes it look a little bit nicer. If you can't get into those little grooves, you can use a wet paintbrush or a wet Q-tip. And then I'm going to grab just a paintbrush and I'm dipping my paintbrush in water and I'm just gonna go through and really make sure this is secure. Give it a little bit of a bigger shimmy and I'm using my hand inside to support to really make sure it's gonna be securely on there. And I'm just taking my paintbrush and I'm going in between any of the cracks or crevices to make sure it is nice and smooth. So when it dries, there are no cracks as well. Okay, so there's my handle. When you finish attaching your handle, yes, it might be dry. You might feel like, yeah, it's on there really good. Do not grab this by the handle. The clay is still wet. And even as it dries into that bone hard stage, remember bone hard is very brittle. If you hold it by the handle, it's most likely going to break. The handle is not permanent until after the first firing. So be very careful when you are still working with this. We don't want it to get damaged at all. But from this point, you can continue to add your decorations. My mug is pretty hard, so I can begin to add any carvings I might have. I'm constantly smoothing it out to make sure it is clean and I'm gonna get the highest grade possible for my craftsmanship. All right, so to recap, measure and adjust on the slab, okay, where the seam was. So you're gonna measure where your handle goes on the seam, mark it. You will score on your cylinder and you will score on your handle edges. You will then slip to glue it on there and then you will weld to add that strength to your handle. From there, you will do any cleanup that you needed, any support, so adding coils that you might need to make sure your handle is on there nice and strong. And you will not pick it up from the handle. You will continue to pick it up from the cylinder until after it's bisque firing. Okay, and that is pretty much it on how to attach a handle. So you guys are all ready. You know what to do. You have to make 3 handles for your assignment, and you will need to pick one of those handles to attach to your mug when you are ready. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So you guys can get practicing now.